This is Digital Marketing Fastlane. This podcast will show you how to build, launch, grow, and scale a widely successful online business. Listen to real conversations with proven practical strategies and success stories. You're going to learn how to generate more traffic, more sales, more profit, and customer lifetime value for your online store. Coming to you from the online marketing experts at Voy Media, here's your host, Kevin Urrutia.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. And today we have Steve Watts of Slide Handboards. Hey, Steve, how are you today?
Hey, how's it going, Kevin? How you doing?
Good. I'm doing great. I'm so excited to have you here on board and great to talk about your story and sort of, the brands that you have built. So, Steve, can you tell us a little bit about your background and, maybe where you grew up?
Sure. Well, I was go right to the beginning. I was born in Cape Town, in a small little town just outside of the city called Hout Bay, and kind of just grew up on the beach down there. It's where my mom would take us, me and my brother, to get out of the house, and that was the kind of pretty cool lifestyle. And then we moved up the coast when I was about 8 or 9, and loved growing up there, still love it, obviously. It's, my home country, and, always got an affinity towards it. But I was a traveler, and I sort of, when I was about 18 or 19, I, packed my bags and headed to London. And from there London's a great place to sort of see the world from, because it's got such a strong currency, and you don't have to work that long to earn enough money to go and really have a good time in other places. And I spent most of my 20s doing that. It wasn't until I was about 27 I decided to get my degree in product design at a university in London called Central St. Martin's. Had a fantastic time doing that, really loved it, and kind of that's where it started me off on the entrepreneurial path, which I'd always wanted to go on. I actually remember when I was 15 or 16 telling my mom, I'm going to be a multimillionaire by the time I'm 30. Because, when you're 16, 30 seems a long time, like a long way away. But nonetheless, that was kind of where that started. So.
And then sort of how did your family end up in South Africa? Did you kind of know what that background or history is there?
Yeah, actually I'm third generation African. So my grandmother and mother were born in Zambia. My dad is actually English, so he came from London when he was about 19 as well. And he went, I believe they met in Zimbabwe. Well, now Zimbabwe, at the time it was called Rhodesia. And then they moved down to South Africa. I think it was my mom was pretty strong-willed at the time and was like, well, if you're going to come, you're going to come, right? So my dad followed her down there. And I believe my grandparents on my mother's side had moved down to work in the copper mines in Rhodesia. It was a kind of... I want to say it was the thing to do back. Yeah. There was a lot of money to be made in the copper mines. I don't believe they made too much of it, or at least I didn't see any of it. But nonetheless, they worked. That's in a nutshell, I believe, like how it all started.
Okay, and then sort of when you went to London, was that sort of you trying to go see where your father grew up? Since that's where. Okay.
No, not at all. It was because I have a British passport by birthright, because my dad was born there. It was really like I'm 100% like African in heart. So I don't really hold any affinity to maybe Scotland a little bit, but not really. So it wasn't about that. It was literally just about going traveling and exploring.
Okay, perfect. You said that you went to your school at 27 for your product design. Mm-hmm. What made you decide that, like, at 27, most people would be like, I don't want to go to school, or I don't think I need this. What made you decide to go do that after so many years of, not essentially?
Well, I kind of missed out. I had gone to school when I was 18 for a brief moment, but the the university was right on the beach in Durban in South Africa where I live. So surfing was a huge part of my life, which is something I didn't mention before, but I'd been surfing since I was 11 or 12. So we would kind of make a beeline for go down to university for classes, and we would be like, the beach seems like a much better idea.
Yeah.
So I wasn't ready to study at that point or to learn. Well, no, that's wrong. I was ready to learn, just not sitting in a class. To me, when I was going to that university, I felt like I was just in high school, like sitting, listening, and it like there was nothing that I'm not the kind of person that can do something just for the sake of doing it. I have to really love it, which is a good thing and a bad thing. I really appreciate people who can actually really put their heart and mind and soul into something that they really don't enjoy. But for me, I can't do that. Like it's not that I even can't, it's just, it ends up being a complete mess. I don't put any effort in whatsoever because I don't want to do it.
Exactly. I tell people, like, I think I know exactly what you're feeling. I always tell people, like, I'm unemployable just because I only want to do what I want to do.
Oh, I'm completely unemployable.
Yeah.
I really am. And I know that for a fact. I mean, it's not something I'm capable of doing.
Yeah, same. Like, like when I have employees too, and I'm just like, so crazy that you would do something like this, even though you might not like it. And it's just because it's my idea, and I would not be able to do that for somebody else.
No, I couldn't. I can't take people telling me what to do. And I think I went to boarding school when I was 13 till I was about into high school. And I think it might have been from that. I had thoroughly enjoyed going to boarding school, really enjoyed it. I got my best friends from there, but like you get told what to do every moment of the day. And it's like, you have to do this. It's all rules. And so, I don't know, maybe it has something to do with that, like kind of revolting against having to deal with that for 5 years.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're feeling. So once you went to school, I guess at 27, how long were you there for? Was it like a 4-year program, a 2-year program?
Yeah, it's so the school, I was in Vietnam. Funny enough, I was just discussing this with somebody else. I was in Vietnam at the time, traveling Hanoi, and I was like, I think it's time I went and did something that I want to be good at something, I think was exactly the reason that I wanted to start. So I just kind of went through, it was a process of finding what I wanted to do, because obviously at the age of 27, when you're 18, people kind of almost decide for you, and you're like, oh yeah, or you just go and choose any degree. For me, that wasn't a choice. Like I knew I was going to be paying for this. And so the choice needed to be something that I was going to do for the rest of my life, regardless of what that was. It needed to be something that I enjoyed. And I'd always been good at art and that kind of stuff. So that kind of gravitated towards something that I could do in that realm that I could make money from. And product design kind of really stuck out to me through the research that I did. And I didn't even realize there was actually you could actually do that as a degree, be an industrial designer or product designer. And so I did a bunch of research. I ended up finding a school in the United States in San Francisco that I went to. I ended up going there for 2 years, and then I relocated back to London to. I always say London. I finished in London, so that was where I got my degree from. So I ended up doing another 2.5 years there. So it was a 4-year degree.
Okay, perfect. And then to you, like product design, what does that mean to you when you were researching it? Obviously now it means so many things, like kind of what you said, industrial design, product design. There's product designers for like websites. There's product designers but what does that mean to you when you were first researching it?
Well, I did that was 10 years ago. So product design, it was funny because I was very unique in that I was very, I wouldn't say I was unique, but my situation was unique in that I got to learn 2 very different styles of product design, which was one in the United States and one in the UK. And in the UK, it's far more cerebral.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you know, you know, we would have to do what they call a context and rationale, and we would have to read. I just read so many books, Freud, all sorts of different books, psychology books, and then you know, in the school here in San Francisco was way more hands-on. In other words, you were building stuff, which, you know, both sides you need. You need to be able to use your mind and kind of like just see the way people interact with products and be able to find a solution to, you know, you look beyond what people are actually just playing with an item. You actually see the problems that are arising when they're using that. And then you've also got to have the ability to be able to sketch that out, or do do a quick prototype. And, you know, that was what the prototyping and the sketching, I was streaks ahead of everybody else when I got to the UK, but my sort of design thinking was, I wouldn't say far behind, but definitely not where it needed to be. So that's what I focused on when I was in the UK.
Okay, so that's interesting. So basically, you got best of both worlds. Where
I did, and to answer your question, what it means to me is, I truly believe everybody is a designer. I try to tell my wife, she's like, oh, I can't design stuff, and I'm like, everybody's designing it. Like at every point, you know, you design everything around you to fit into your life. I mean, that's design, right? Like, to me, design is about creating a world that, like, you want to live in. I mean, it could be making stuff pretty, or it could be making stuff, you know, more usable. And so, yeah, I mean, there's all various different ways of looking at it. I just, I truly think design is, we can design us. So there's a great book, Designing Ourselves Out of, you know, the problems the world faces at the moment. There's all sorts of different forms of design, but me, I love objects. So, you know, that was,
the pure product design, but like,
exactly, as opposed to kind of all the other offshoots that have come, you know, somebody sitting around thinking about different things to
no, but exactly what you said, like everything around you is designed by someone just like you that thought about it. And and that's not, they're not that, I always tell people, like, you can design anything you want. It's sort of, you know, the person designing it doesn't mean they're smarter than you. They just thought about it and wanted to execute on it.
Yeah, no, it's you know, they just have a different way of looking at it. I have a very interesting story, actually. Jonathan Ives, who was he's the head designer for Apple. He did a talk at our school because he was getting an honorary degree from there. And it's a really you know, the school I went to, Paul McCartney's daughter went there. You know, so it's a really, you know, well-established school. It's been around for, you know, and a long time. So, you know, we had a lot of really great people coming and talking. He was one of them. And he was saying that, you know, when they designed the iPod, and what he did was he took a team of people and they sat outside a London Underground, and they watched people going in and out on their commute. And I don't know if you remember at the time, but we had mini disc players and CD players and Walkmans and all sorts of stuff, right? So they noticed that these people going in and out, he was like, what don't they have? And, you know, nobody could answer the question. And, like, they don't have two hands to be able to use, because one's got paper, you're carrying a briefcase, you only have one hand to be able to operate a product. And he's like, that's where the first little, like, ideation for the iPod, nobody could figure out why it became so like incredible, is because they created this device that you could operate with one hand. And that's what set it apart from absolutely everything else. I mean, apart from all the cool design and all that kind of stuff. But the fact that, like, they had answered a question that people were repeatedly asking themselves, is like, oh my God, I'm dropping my iPod on the floor for the 50th time. My paper's all over. They noticed that was what was happening. People have a tendency to just blame themselves for the products around them. And I actually, ever since, becoming a product designer, I no longer do that. I blame the product because it hasn't been designed properly.
Yep.
So, that's, if something's going wrong, it's almost 100% of the time it's the product's fault, not yours, because it should be designed around the humans that are using it. Unless you're obviously not using something that should be used for a human, or it's been designed to not be able to be used, which is, that's the whole.
That's another type of design. But that makes sense because I mean, with iPhones and iPods, it's one-hand use, and it reminds me of a story that I heard for video game designers. So we live here in the city. Probably London also has the underground, but the most successful games here are those games that you can play with one hand, because most of the time in the subway, the other hand is attached to the handrail.
Yeah, exactly. So you're holding on.
Yeah. So you can use two hands essentially. Yeah. It totally makes sense.
Yeah, it's an observation that like they made, and because they were product designers, they knew that was a solution. Like there was, a lot of people, if you're not in that headspace.
Yeah.
But if you walk around and you see the way people use stuff around them, it's really easy to come up with solutions to the problem, because you're like, if that's why, like you see somebody bending over that's why, like women with, or anybody using a push cart for a child, like there's so much design that goes into that because of, like being able to sort of open it with one hand, I don't think they've got it right. We have a 2-year-old, and
it's
the push carts we've used are like terrible.
I think everything needs to be designed by Johnny Ive, and he just needs to look. This is interesting because I want to know, what are your thoughts on like the AirPods? That is essentially a product design that's I think when it first came out, everybody was like, this is so ugly, this is so weird, and then I have them now and I cannot live without them just because they're just so useful. And like, I don't know, I love mine.
The AirPods are I'm not an Apple guy, so.
Oh God, you need to get them, Steve. Like
the ones that like the Wi-Fi connected one, the Bluetooth?
Bluetooth ones, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have Bluetooth earbuds, Bluetooth headphones, and I mean, I can't live without them. Yeah. I use them all the time. I walk around with them. They're the ones that go around my neck.
Okay, yeah.
But well, I think, they're the full head ones.
Full ones, yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, even then, I think that's sort of like another interesting observation too, where, at least for me, when I'm running, I don't want to have the wires dangling, or that big issue was happening before was you would stuff the cord in your pocket and then it would be like a little maze trying to untangle them every single time.
It's that, and when I'm running on because I like to do treadmill, it's not as hard on my knees. Than like the running on the tarmac or the asphalt, and anyway, the amount of times that I've hooked my thumb as I'm running, I'm running like that, and the cord catches, and the iPod flies across the room or hits the thing and bounces back and hits the, or not your phone or whatever so Wi-Fi, I can't wait until there are no cords left on the earth.
Oh yeah.
Like I was just thinking about the other day, I wish, because I'm outside, all our electric lines are running around, and you're like, we've got a beautiful view of the ocean, but there's a massive electric lines in the way, and I'm like, when's that gonna go?
Yeah,
I can't stand it. So
because I mean, the whole earth is covered by just power lines, electric lines, and that also reminds me of the product design of, we're taking this conversation, so we're random, but it reminds me of like design of cities. Like parking lots is a big space where I don't think they should be there. It should be somewhere hidden naturally underground. There's so much space, like even mall parking lot, just massive amounts of space that could be something else. And how do you design around something like that? And I don't know, I product design and thinking about that, I'm into that as well.
There's a great book called Designing in, I know the author is John Ficarra, and Designing in the Bubble, I believe, and you could look it up. And Yeah, he talks not necessarily about the parking lot thing, but just how we can design our way out of the situations that we got ourselves into. It's a really interesting design centered book. That was actually required reading for us. And I'm sure he's brought out others since there, because just his observations are just incredible. And you know, I think that the parking lot thing, that's, you start with the problem, which is, they're ugly, right? I mean, there's even a song about pick up a parking lot or whatever. It's and you start with that issue, and they're ugly. And cars are actually beautiful, almost they're most of them are gorgeous. They're design like marvels. I mean, if you really think about it. And so, it's like, how can you, like, maybe don't make them disappear, but just how do you beautify them in a way that is, and it's the same with buildings. I mean, you look at some buildings where it's just a cement block, and then other buildings where, it's a Frank Lloyd Wright building where it's just absolutely gorgeous, and he's designed it, it's everything's just has a purpose. And then you got somebody else who designed something and just be like, this is going to be an office building. And so, I just think a little bit of thought that goes into, I believe it's got a lot to do with just being present, and the idea that, like, people think about the stuff that they put in places, instead of just just putting a utilitarian like building somewhere that serves a purpose. They should actually build it with some thought behind it.
It's about, like, designing something that's delightful, especially if it's something that's going to be seen every day, and you could potentially bring joy to someone's day. It's like, oh, it's a nice building, and versus, oh, there's that building.
There's a set of design books. I can't remember what they're called. I'd have to look it up, and you can put it in the show notes. But he talks about design should be user-friendly, blah, 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 and he like, his first book is just very much about, like, the technique of designing something that works, which is, and then in his and he was vehemently against, just stuff that didn't have any use. And then he actually changed his mind off of one particular interaction that a friend had with a product that was a little tea strainer that was a monkey that held onto the side of the mug. And you put your tea in there and it strains it. And he was saying, like, normally I'd be vehemently against it because it's almost like pointless design. Like, it doesn't serve a purpose. I mean, you could do it some other way than having a monkey do it, But he was saying that he watched how his friend interacted with this monkey, and for that moment that he interacted with the monkey, it brought him joy, brought him, like, he smiled, he had, and he's like, it completely changed my outlook on the way that I believe design should be. Is that, everything, even even if it creates a minute reaction or a minute sort of interaction with somebody, it's served its purpose. And so, like, so long as it's doing well, not necessarily, even if it's not doing what you want it to do, but it's creating a reaction. But if it's definitely, if, you create something to make somebody smile or laugh or maybe even make them sad. I don't know. It depends on what, I mean, if you're, depends on what you're doing. But he was, it basically, it changed his entire sort of thesis on
design.
How he looked at design.
Perfect. And
which I follow exactly. Like, I think something, if something can make somebody happy, even for 10 minutes in a day, I think you've done your job.
And then sort of, I guess, going back to sort of like, how have you sort of incorporated these sort of details into, I guess, your first company, Slide Handboards, with the design, the details? What are those moments of joy that you found when building your product?
Well, it takes, the handboards are, a labor of love. It took me a long time to sort of come to the little curves and the details that go into each board. It's got a lot to do with the materials you use, and because every product, it's called the semiotics, is basically every product that you look at speaks to you. It actually has a language. It's semiotics are the language of products, and if you can imagine a salt shaker, you know how to use a salt shaker because it tells you how to use it. It's maybe it's angled up like that, and there's something inside, it's see-through, and you can see the holes in the top, and you know how to use it. And so it was really important to me to be able to use those semiotics, or that language, to convey fun, to convey bright, happiness. And also it varies from, we have a lower end, well, not lower end, but a sort of beginner board, all the way up to a pro level. And each of those boards, we have 4 of them, have to convey a certain use for the particular person that I had in mind when I was designing it for. Anybody can use them, but it's specifically designed for a certain person. That, obviously our beginner board is foam. It's soft, it's nice, it's welcoming, it's got round corners, it's not sharp. So the materials we use are nice and spongy, so it's not whereas it doesn't look like it's difficult to use. It looks like you could just pick it up and use it. Whereas a smaller one is, which is the pro level one, it's got sharp corners. It's got real deep concave that if you didn't know how to ride a surfboard, or you didn't understand hydrodynamics, you would be like, why is it like that? But if you do, you understand exactly what that's for. It's basically a suction on the side of the face of the wave. And so, there was a lot of thought that went into thought and process that goes almost naturally. Like once you've been doing design for a long time, it's something that you just do. Still, you still have to think about it.
Yeah, because I think what you're saying is, you have to be able to design for your audience and sort of what they're used to, and sort of make your products essentially, keep leveling them up, because through your product, through the beginner, you're sort of teaching them maybe something about aerodynamics, dynamics, that way. So the next one, they get it. And it's not just about them buying a product, it's about them sort of experiencing and saying, and then challenging themselves too, because then you make them better. And then
exactly. And your product, especially your high-end product, needs to convey that. We use carbon fiber. And it's basically saying step up. Step up and try use me. Let's see if you've got the guts to drop in on a 15-foot face wave for this, because that's what it's used for. And it should say that. It shouldn't be the opposite of I'm not going to be able to handle the job that you are set out to do. And so it's why things that are industrially designed, in other words, for industry and stuff, you don't see a big tanker ship with flowers and whatnot. It's like they're big bolts, and everything is conveying that they're tough and they can withstand big seas and stuff like that. But a speedboat, that's all to be, once you start to understand how things are actually designed specifically for their use and for a certain person, you can start to see the semiotics of what it's sleek, it's beautiful, it's the curves and all that stuff. Whereas the tanker ship is just it's utilitarian, it's just there to be tough.
Yeah. And do you think, Steve, that people now are paying more attention to product design than before? What are your thoughts on that? Do you think design is something that people care about, or
I think people have always cared about it. They just didn't have a word for it. I think Apple that was their democratization of design was that's what they set out to do, and they did it very well. And they made people aware that they wanted beautiful products. So I think people have been made aware. I think it would be, if you didn't have companies like Asus and Apple and Nike and whatnot coming out with these beautifully designed packaging and products, and I don't think many people would, they would just take the status quo. But because they've been immersed in it now for a long time, I think people are, if you don't see that in another product, they've set the bar really high, and so now people know what to look for. So yeah, I think in that, people are definitely taking more note of design. But I think people are, design is, it's kind of like a word people just use, and they're like, oh, that's designed as in it's, you put some like pretty flowers on it or something. Whereas, design is a lot deeper than that. I like I was saying, it goes into like how somebody uses it in the semiotics of, the curves and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's like design is the, design of, it looks nice, but then there's also like your design, which is the deeper meaning of it, and sort of, and I think a good way for people to just, maybe people can relate to this, is if you think about, I'm not sure if you watch like Chef's Table on Netflix, there's obviously like, there's some cooks, anybody can cook, but then there's cooks that design food, the experience, the smell.
The whole experience. And that's a big thing now too, is design experience, obviously. Designing an experience. And something I was really interested, just after I left school, was like the experience that, like design is not just like the product. It's everything that comes in, that whole experience that you have. And it's something that, with our new company, Feldscombe, which we've just started, we're going through that process at the moment, which is designing from every touch point in like how we want that product to, what we want that product to say to that person. And, they're utilitarian shoes, and they're beautiful, and they're like crafted by, South Africans, and, everything that shoe has, and it's, it's a 400-year-old shoe design, that's been copied 1,000 times, but it's like the original. And so we need to like get that across. And how do we get that across? And it's a really interesting, almost, you have to go, when I'm doing it, I kind of almost go into this black hole. It's fun, and it's scary, and it's kind of weird, because you kind of, you just go into the zone where all you see and feel and everything around you is how can I like, you just start to notice things all over the place. And it's kind of, like I said, it's fun, but the wife doesn't like it much, because it kind of disappear for a while.
It's with anybody with any sort of hobby or passion, you can easily just disappear in it.
Absolutely.
And then Steve, so I want to talk about your brand new company, sort of, how did that start? Where was your mindset of this thing I want to take on that's new for you? Kind of how did the company come into your radar?
So trying to think I could tell the story the best way, but it goes right back to my childhood. So anyway, the new company, we've had Slide for nearly 10 years. I started it when I was actually 16. I knew that's what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I knew that I was having fun on these products, and handboarding and body surfing was just so much fun. I surfed, I do everything in the ocean. I love it. And, me and my wife, I started, and she came in about 2 years after that. And this was in 2010 when we officially launched then. I'd been working on it way before then. And we've built it to something that's amazing. It's incredible. And just last year, we were both like, we would like to like have something, you know, we want to take the connections, because we were on Shark Tank with Slide, and we have a wonderful partners in Ashton Kutcher and Mark Cuban, and they've been incredible for us. And the connections that they have, you know, helped us grow has just been incredible. So, you know, we have such an opportunity to create more stuff. And so, you know, it was last year, winter last year, because Slide is really slow during the winter, and then during the summer it just explodes. So it was during the winter, I was like, you know, it'd be nice just to have something that like we could use, you know, we could start and would work through winter too. So we had something to work on in winter, so we could like kind of rotate. And like I said, we have all the knowledge, and like tried every single app ever made on Shopify, and I have all this knowledge, and I felt it was going to waste on just one. And I'm also I'm kind of ADD, so I was, as you probably hear, I'm like, you know, I've got the right brain, I believe. I don't know. I've got the design side brain, so it's all over the place. And I was like, I've got to find something else. And you know, I ended up going. My mom got very sick, and I ended up going to South Africa, which hadn't been on the radar to go, but you know, because she was sick, I had to go over. And my wife Ange and my daughter Venice, they visited her grandmother and her mother in Rhode Island, and I went to South Africa, and I was like, you know, it's my birthplace, and I want to. It's such an amazing culture, an amazing place, and I want to bring something over from South Africa. So anyway, my cousins happened to be there at the same time I was there, and we were at a restaurant, and I see this girl walk past me wearing a pair of shoes that are from my childhood. And I went to school, like I said, at a boarding school, and the boarding school was actually a farm school too as well. So we used to wear these shoes called veldskoen. And they're a leather shoe that had been around for centuries. Like, I mean, everybody just knows what veldskoen are in South Africa. We call them vellies, so I'll continue calling them vellies because nobody can say veldskoen. So everybody like knew what vellies are in South Africa. They're like a traditional shoe. They're iconic. Super hard wearing. You can wear them in the heat, and a lot of the farmers wear them because they're super durable. And I saw them, and it was kind of like a little like fashion statement almost. And I'm like, boom, I'm gonna bring them to America. So I looked them up, and I see there was actually a company there that online that was already doing what I immediately was like, they'll be cool with colors. Like, I don't know, like that'd be awesome. And, you know, and then I started looking, and I found the company doing exactly what I want to do was color soles and color laces. And I was like, hey, like, that's a bummer. They're already, you know, they already got it. So I'm like, I let it, you know, I was just on my phone. And then we went to a mall, and I was like, I was kind of walking around. I couldn't get it out of my head. Like, I'm like, let me just email these guys and see, you know, what their deal is. So I said, are you guys in America? And they said like, yeah, we're going to be, but we really want to be, but we're not.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And I let it sit for about 2 days. And then I emailed them back, and I said, look, here's the deal. This is what we have. This is what we built over there. We have a lot of very good connections for exactly what you guys are looking for. You know, we can build your company. And they like literally, like before I'd even sent it, I think they were calling me back.
Yeah. And
this was September of last year. And as of 2 weeks ago, we just signed the deal to have 50% of the distribution. Well, we own the United States, so we're basically the owners of veldskoen here in the United States, with a 50-50 with them in South Africa. And so we're bringing this iconic, amazing shoe to the United States, and it's it's nerve-wracking starting. We actually before we had signed, we'd already like built the website, and we were doing testing and stuff because we knew we all wanted to work together. It was just the legal stuff which came in, which I can go into if you want to, but it's so much work. Just the legal stuff, and I advise anybody doing any kind of agreement, always have an agreement. I was discussing this with our lawyer yesterday, and she was just like, it's the most important thing. Like, it's so important.
Yep.
But nonetheless, we signed the deal, but we'd been doing like all this testing, and it's just. I put some ads up on Facebook because obviously, starting from scratch, you don't, it's shoe. Like Nike and Zappos and stuff. So we were like, the only way we're going to do is just going to do well with this is if we do some ads on Facebook, and it just blew up.
Oh, wow.
And, we were like, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
We had to dial down the ads and because we didn't have enough stuff, and it was just enough stock, and we were just like, okay, we know it's going to fire, and so we signed the deal, and we got my friend who's in a media agency up in Los Angeles, and again, another one of the connections, although I've known him for ages, that they were like, this is the most incredible story about this shoe, and we want to be involved in it, and so they're doing all the marketing, the actual Facebook stuff, and it's been great so far, so fingers crossed.
And then I would say for like how does it feel for you to I guess be able to work on something new after so long of obviously working on your passion, but this is like a newfound passion, and how does it feel? Like, does it reinvigorate you essentially?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in, it absolutely invigorates. Like, Slide is always going to be my baby. I love working on it. I love our community. It's so engaged. And they're just awesome. We are family friends with a lot of our riders' parents, and it's just incredible. But it's for me, and I don't know if you listen to Simon Sinek at all, but finding your why. And I think every entrepreneur should at least listen to that, and take everything with a grain of salt. But I really believe in finding your why and being authentic about who you are and what for me personally, like I said, I cannot do something if I don't believe in it.
Yep.
And for me, like Feldschoen is, I almost get emotional talking about it, because it comes, Prince Harry wears them.
Wow.
Nelson Mandela wore them. Like, they're part of our heritage. I don't even see myself as we're just we're the I don't know what the real word is, but we're the kind of gatekeepers to it. We don't own it. We don't own Feldschoen. It has a life of its own. Like, they are that's how deep the brand goes. And so we're stewards to it, and every day I have to get up and be the best that I can be for everybody that's come before that, and everybody, my entire heritage.
Yep.
So it's super important to me to just make this the very best that it can be.
Yeah, because with Feldschoens, you're not just selling a product, you're selling the history, your country, what people, like you said before, have worn for a long time, and it feels good to be able to show it to the world and promote it and use all that sort of credibility, connections that you've had to show it to the world, because that's sort of what we're made to do, I guess. Sometimes
it's exactly what you just said is exactly
Perfect. How has, I guess, working with this team in South Africa been? Do you guys have weekly sort of like more of a just team communication? How has that been?
As far as that, it is we're doing really well, and we all get on. They're honestly, I hope they listen to this. They're fantastic people. Just the people themselves, and something I learned a long time ago is being in business, everybody's had that dick boss, that boss that is just at some point, if you haven't, you're very lucky. And so I learned a long time ago, I did not want to do business. If I'm going into business, I'd rather just be broke than have to deal with people that I don't enjoy. And so these guys are just genuinely nice people and great business people to be involved. And yeah, it has its difficulties with being so far away, but that's the only thing. But we have like a weekly meetup on Zoom, which is awesome. I love Zoom.
Zoom is good.
Yeah, we all get on and we all discuss stuff, and we all get stoked and get fired up, and then, you know, spend another week and come back and do it all over again. And, you know, they've given us complete autonomy, I believe is the word, to really just take the United States to the next level, and they completely trust in what we're doing. And so yeah, it is, again, like you have to have the communication. Like we use Slack, which worked. Then we use now we have like a WhatsApp group, which seems to be working. But you know, so it's funny, you go through these like phases of like everybody wants to be on Slack, and then everybody wants to be like, everybody's listening on you know. And it's funny, you listen to these companies tell you how good their software works, and it's funny, like the actual reality of how stuff really does work.
Yeah. Like Slack is like, I love Slack. We use Slack here, but it's like you're always on with Slack. It's like less email. It's like, no, actually, like I think I get more messages in Slack now. And it's more of like, I need to check it right now, or else like I'm freaking out.
Yeah. And so we try to keep it up, and but really, I mean, you know, we're building here, and you know, the cool thing about like what they're doing over there is it's not just Feldskun. They've got other products that they're they're kind of like a think tank over there. And you know, in South Africa, it's archaic as far as the internet is concerned. It's like people don't get it. There's a lot of very clever people, but as far as the e-commerce side of things is concerned, it's I noticed it when I was over there. It's like, wow, people are still talking about, wow, you bought something online?
Oh my God.
Like, oh yeah. You know, so you know, that's something I did notice over there, and people that have a kind of mistrust for it, you know, they're like, oh, this is a scam immediately. Like, no, your product is on the way, dude. You know, so, you know, it's
there's still I mean, and that's something interesting to talk about too, because there's such a huge opportunity for entrepreneurs to go there and see what advantages they can do and sort of help out, because, you know, America has an advantage, which is people are used to this online thing. And it did take a while for people to get used to it, but now with like, I mean, you probably know, Amazon just pretty much made it so that everybody believes this online thing.
I think they were probably top. I mean, what, like, how long have they been around? I mean, Amazon's
20
been
years
around.
now. I think I think for consumers it's great, but as for small business owners, Amazon is deadly, because they just take over everything.
Well, I'm not going to disagree. I agree with you to a certain extent, but I think something that Amazon, and we work with Amazon a lot, and they've been great for our business as far as, you know, especially Slide. We don't do Feldskun on there because it's new, and I don't know if we will. But you know, I was actually at a talk yesterday about this very subject, and I think, you know, one of the things that I truly believe with, I don't fear Amazon at all. Maybe I should, I don't know. But what they're so big, they can never deliver what a small company can deliver. And I'm talking service, the whole thing. You know, I mean, at Amazon, it's just, you get a product. It's for people who want, you know, it's the Walmart, it's the online Walmart shopper, basically. Like, you want something, and don't get me wrong. I mean, there is an Amazon package out there waiting for me right now. Like, we use it all the time. But I don't go on there to get a brand experience. I don't go on there and I know they're working on it, because I've built that stuff for our brand online, but it's not the same. I really, like, I don't even know if they'll ever be able to get, and I hope they don't, because that is the holy grail for a small business, is that you can tell your story. You can tell who you are. You can have connections with, you own those people and their data, which is huge, and you can speak to them through your emails, through your phone calls, all that kind of stuff. So I definitely think that, you know, anybody who's worried about Amazon, you know, just find where you differentiate, and that's where it is being authentically yourself, whereas Amazon is really a commodity. And so like people go there to buy stuff that's cheap, and you know, you just need to find something that can't be found on there, can't really be replicated on there. I mean, for us, it's like for Falcon shoes, like, you know, nobody can ever replicate the Feldskun brand because it belongs to us. So, you know, anybody buying on there is going to be, one of the talks yesterday was actually the Birkenstock guy, and they went through that big thing and he was talking about that a little bit. And he was just like, it wasn't where we wanted to take the brand. And like, they were not, you know, they weren't listening to us. And so we pulled. So, you know, the idea is that like you can create a brand and you get that a lot more of a personal thing with a small company. And I think a lot of people are gravitating towards that now.
Yeah, I see that too. It's at Amazon, exactly what you said. It's great for businesses and it drives a lot of sales. But like you said, they won't be able to replicate the brand, the founder, the presence, the rich history of a company can only be told through your own website or through your own channels. Yeah. And I think as a founder or small business, that just makes you connect more with the people that are buying your products versus just, oh, let me make a product and release it out there. It's now, I have a story and I need to tell it. And you have to become your own personal brand for your business, essentially. And because they're going to believe you and your story and the company behind it. Because I mean, that's what you see right now. A good example is Shark Tank. Like when I look at it, I'm looking at the founders. I'm like, oh my God, that story is just so cool and amazing. And the product is everything that's around that story. And that's why I made them. And that's why people fall in love with the products.
Yeah.
And so
and it's the whole package too, as well. And the story's like, the story is so important. It's really difficult to tell a good story. I got another book that like, if anybody's listening should read is Story Brand. Just look it up. It's on like it's I mean, there's plenty of story, like, but brand, basically telling a story through a brand, books. This one was particularly good for me. So Donald Miller, I think his name is. I got a lot out of his book, and it actually takes you through the steps of actually telling a story as you would if you were telling a story of a movie.
That's good.
So yeah, I think we touched on that as far as, Amazon can never tell your story, not in the way that you can anyway. And so everything that the customer touches should just not be the Amazon brown box.
No,
like just plain thing. Everything should be about your brand.
Yeah, and the way I think about it too is it sort of made like business owners, I have my own company as well. It has made us better because essentially it means that you need to compete at a different level. And I think that's why people are scared, because that just raised the stakes. And a good example is obviously all those B2C companies, kind of like yourself, where you just have to raise your standards now and become better. And, we saw companies like, I guess, P&G, Procter & Gamble, just releasing the same version of toothpaste 20 times, calling it something new. And it's like, they're only winning because they have that shelf space, but there's
and that they're following. And that's why these guys like Warby Parker and these disruptive brands come in, because they see that what these guys are doing.
Yep.
They see through the facade of just like doing exactly what you just said, bringing out another pair of sunglasses and bringing out, or like everybody owns that. And they're like, we can do this better.
Yep.
And it's difficult. It's very, very difficult to execute on it. And it's difficult to see, but when you do see it and you want to do it, like you can make a complete difference.
Yeah.
And you really can compete with those bigger guys. And you don't have to look far to see the guys that, I mean, there are plenty of people beyond that have failed doing that, but I mean, if you're not going to try, you're never going to get anywhere. So
exactly. And I think that just makes it better. I think a good example would be like, people always look up to like, Dollar Shave Club, that founder, that great video. People are like, that was so unique and really was competing against a big giant like Gillette. And no one would ever think a few years ago that could happen. But look, unique story that Gillette would never make, a unique risk. That's a risk that Gillette would never make with that story, with funny, sort of provocative. And I think that's what's required now.
Yeah, he started that whole genre of funny videos.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So.
Yeah, just one guy. It's sort of where we wrap back to the beginning. It's like reality is designed by somebody around you. He just decided to make that, and now that's our reality.
The same with Tom's Shoes is another one. Yeah. Exactly the same thing, where he decided 1 for 1, and now everybody is trying to do this, is doing the same version 100 different times, like different, and they're all coming up with their own different spin, which, you can think of it as it's copying, which some people blatantly are, or other people are just inspired by that. It's like being inspired by the color red, you come up with different shades. And so that I think it's awesome. And honestly, if I was him, I think I would be probably the thing I'm most proud about, is because you've brought this community awareness to social problems, which is far more than probably what Tom's has created. He's created a whole movement of companies that are making money for good, and well, we hope anyway. I mean, that's what they tell us, but nonetheless, not to be cynical, but I assume that's what's happening. And so that for me as a legacy, I'd be like, that's so cool. I changed the way people do business. That's awesome.
And exactly. Like that whole legacy for Tom's is like, it's exactly what you said before. It's probably been worth more than what he's done, just because the sheer volume of companies that are following that model.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, perfect, Steve. Last question for you. Great talk so far. I love it. Where can we go to learn more about, Feldschoon, slide handboards, yourself, your story? Where can people go to, learn more about yourself?
Well, we haven't, just to give your listeners kind of an overview, is we've started Fun Brands, which is kind of our umbrella company, and underneath that is anything fun. So handboarding, body surfing handboards are definitely fun. Feldschoon are super fun, colorful, bright. Our mission for the company is just to spread optimism and love and just for people that smile. And you can find Feldschoon at feldschoon.com, feldschoonshoes.com. So that's shoes.com. Sorry. So it's kind of a mouthful, but Feldschoon is actually an Afrikaans word. My wife is from Rhode Island, so I get her, whenever I want to laugh, I just ask her to say Feldschoon, and she's like, Feldschoon. So anyway, it means field shoe, because that's where it's come from, and that's the name of them. And then slide handboards, which is SLYDE, HANDBOARDS.com. So you can, for both of those, you can read more about myself and Ange on Slide, and then Feldschoon, more of that will start to come in, and it's that's where you can see it.
All right, thank you so much, Steve, for your time. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed our chat, and thank you so much.
No worries. I had a great time. Thank you.
This week's episode of Digital Marketing Fastlane was brought to you by the performance marketing experts at Voy Media. Join us again next time, as we'll be bringing you more tips, techniques, and know-how to make your online business the very best that it can be. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, we'd love to hear them on Twitter at Voy Media. Thank you.